So Sig Sauer and the P320 are still very much in the news. There are videos uploaded every day showing how the uncommanded discharge seems to be more real and real. I think I was somebody that was maybe a little bit more in denial at first, but am coming around to the idea that maybe there's a quality control issue. And what is one of my favorite platforms, this is what I shoot for USPSA. I've been contemplating switching to Glock for a while for a completely separate reason. I just feel like I shoot the platform better. But overall, I really do like this gun and would like to keep it. But if it's not safe, I just don't feel comfortable putting both myself and especially others at risk by continuing to do so. So we're going to do a couple function tests here. This video actually caught my eye by a user of the name P320s in a trench coat. I'm going to link the video in the description. It definitely set me towards the right path, I think, of making sure I can function test to make sure that this firearm is hopefully not going to kill me in the very near future, if at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I've done here. I pulled the barrel and the recoil spring out, so that way we can just see the firing pin protrude there. And we're actually going to switch to the other camera, so we're going to cut real quick so that way you guys can actually see the firing pin in slow motion, how it's supposed to be when we pull the trigger. So we've got the camera flipped around here, and we're just going to record in slow motion to see if that firing pin comes. I just saw it right there. So again, what we're doing right here is checking to make sure the firing pin functions as normal when we want it to, so that the firing pin is indeed protruding when we pull the trigger, like you just saw there. Now the scary part is, does that firing pin come without a trigger pull? If we press down on our sear there, is it going to cause it to drop the firing pin anyways without any action on the trigger? If so, that would mean that your Sig Sauer P320 is susceptible to what is known as the uncommanded discharge. This is an awful day to forget your tripod, so we're going to be using my trash can here to see if we can do this function test. So again, we're just going to press down on our sear from back here and activate it. Let's see if we get a firing pin. Oop. There's one. There's two. There's three. There's four. There's five. Let's give it a little bit more force, see if it changes anything. There's six. That popped it off. Let's see, seven now. There's seven. Oop. There's eight. Nine. Oop. And 10. All right. And then just for good measure, let's just make sure that the firing pin can be seen from here when we pull the trigger. All right, 3 for 3 there. Obviously, that is a monumental amount of relief for me as somebody who's shot this around others quite a bit. I actually almost had it jump out of my holster at a PCSL match. That's completely gear-based, you know, that should never have happened to begin with. But in the event that a hot gun does fall out, you want it to not, you know, go bang the moment that it hits the ground. So running it through those 10 tests right there, not getting a single firing pin, protrude during the close-up of that. That obviously makes me feel a lot better, especially after seeing what happens when somebody else does the exact same test and it does fail. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you're going to have an uncommanded discharge. It just means the possibility there is severely higher, because the lack of safety mechanisms in there to prevent that anyways is a little silly. But then you add in the part that seems to be there's cheap injection molding parts being used that aren't consistent. Quality control just seem to go down. It's hard to say this in numbers because they put so many of these things out between the X5, the AXG, and just the standard issue that, you know, what your law enforcement and or your M17s and M18s that your military are getting. There's just so many of these out there that because there is a problem when it does show up, it does seem like it's showing up with more consistency. The biggest issue I think I have with what's going on right now is there doesn't. Sorry, y'all. Sig Sauer cut my feed by filling my iPhone storage there. I had to delete a few videos. What I was saying is I think my biggest issue with this whole situation is what feels like the lack of accountability or addressing this from Sig Sauer and Gray. It feels like that they have made statements that says there is no problem, there's not an issue, but there's just too many videos, frankly, outside of just reports alone showing otherwise. Obviously, this feels like a very rare malfunction because two things have to fail simultaneously, essentially, for this issue to occur. But just to otherwise not address it with anything but a voluntary upgrade program just feels kind of disrespectful, and like Sig Sauer is spitting in the face of their customers. I want to know, what does this upgrade actually do? Is it a performance upgrade? If not, is it a safety upgrade? Because that doesn't feel like an upgrade. That feels like a recall issue, and anything to do with your customer safety should be paramount. It's obviously very much a way to avoid legal responsibility by saying, hey, we know there's an issue, we need to replace it. Any injuries or issues that have risen above it obviously now get opened up for them to be sued by. So I understand why they're doing it. I just think with a company as reputable as Sig Sauer, with so many successful product lines, I mean, I carry a P365 every single day almost. If I don't, it's because I'm carrying a revolver. It's one of my favorite everyday carry platforms, but I just do not feel comfortable continuing to use a P320 or supporting it, because even if my P320 is not exhibiting the problem right now, what happens after another 10,000 rounds of wear? What is the part that is causing the issue? You know, I'm not smart enough to determine that just because my 320 passed the test today, that it's not going to fail it, you know, in another 1,000 rounds, because I don't know what the tolerance issue is that is causing that striker to be able to protrude past when the sear is, you know, disengaged. At the end of the day, I think it's kind of, again, kind of a poor design for the sear to be able to be disengaged like that without at least somewhat of a depress of the trigger. I mean, that striker's cocked fully back. My final thoughts are, if you have a 320, go ahead and put safety above all else. Take that thing apart, pull your barrel and recoil spring out there, and just do the test to see if you can get your striker to protrude. If you can, go ahead and report it. I think the louder that we are, the higher the chance that we're going to get SIG to actually address this. Like I said before, I love SIG guns. I'll continue to buy them, but I think the 320 needs shelf for now.